I just want to talk a little bit about how I've been thinking about meaning and purpose and mission, and how I kind of break these things down, and hopefully maybe it'll help someone out there that might come across this video as I'm driving home on the journey, on the path, in traffic. And so for me, meaning is kind of it's the big why, it's the big cosmic question of what is the meaning of life. It's those big, like, the whys are suffering, whys are all this difficulty and struggle. And for me, the Christian framework tends to just say that the meaning is for you to know God. There is a God that created you, and He wants to have a relationship with you. And so to know God and to glorify God, to be in relationship with Him, God wanted to create other beings because He wanted to be in relationship. He wanted to share, I guess in some level, I'm just kind of thinking off the fly right now, but just in some sense share in community with other beings. It's kind of interesting to think about the more I flesh that out. But Christianity is kind of that, and for me, it always leads to more whys. Why? Well, why is there evil? Why is there suffering? Well, it's because of sin. Why was there even a possibility of sin in the first place? Well, because God wanted free creatures. He didn't want robots. He wanted these beings, these humans, to freely be able to love Him. And that just raises a lot of other questions, so why do we suffer for the sin of the first humans? We have to pay the price of sin from someone who was just the first created beings. Well, you would have made the same choice. We all would have made the same choice. Well, how do we know that? Anyway, it's just this continuous whys that tend to come up, and it goes on for infinity. And I've come to the realization that the big why is a mystery. Unfortunately, it's a mystery. We'll never fully understand the entirety of what's going on fully. It's like one of our individual cells in our body trying to grasp what it's a part of. It's impossible for it to fully understand. It's impossible for it to fully grasp. But there is a meaning to that individual cell's life. There is a purpose to it, right? And each individual cell has a unique purpose. All the different types of cells have different purposes. And so I think for me, what I've found peace in is just being able to rest in the mystery of it all. That there is no comprehending the big why, the big questions, the big, massive existential questions that humanity's asked since the beginning of time. There is no fully comprehending it. It's impossible for us to fully understand, just like it's impossible for the individual cell to know what it's a part of. So even if we can't fully explain it, I think that there's an inner knowing, there's an inner knowledge of that our life does matter. Life does matter. There is a reason for existence. There is a purpose to it. The way I've been thinking about purpose and just kind of humanity in general is that our purpose is here. We're here to learn and grow. We see the physical development of the human, from a newborn baby to an infant to a toddler to early adolescence and teenager years and into early adulthood and throughout all of adulthood and into our old age. There's these different levels of not only physical growth, but there's this mental learning, these mental leaps. We talk about that. I've got a newborn baby. We talk about these mental leaps that children go through as they start to become more conscious and aware of life and the world that they're living in. They start to understand things at a deeper level. And I think ultimately that is the broad general purpose of humanity, is that we're here to learn and grow physically, but the physical is pointing to what I would call spiritual things, which is the unseen world, which is the mental capacities and the emotional capacities that are contained within the individual human being. And that all of those things is consciousness, is spiritual. All of those things it might all be the same thing. But our purpose here is to learn and grow, to experience life, to experience consciousness, and to grow mentally and emotionally and spiritually. So what is growth in consciousness? What is growth spiritually or emotionally or mentally? For me, it comes in relationship with other individuals, right? It's not until you interact with that guy who gets on your nerves, or you have a child who just is constantly whining and crying, and you want it to stop, and you lose your temper, or you lose get frustrated, or whatever it is with this other individual that you're interacting with. It's at those moments, and a lot of times it comes through having made the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over again. And you realize that, man, if I would act a different way, if I would change this specific behavior, or if I would, control this specific emotion in a better way, that it would produce more peace for myself and for the other individual. And so we've all seen the guy lose his temper. You've lost your temper. I've lost my temper. We've all lost our temper. We've gotten frustrated or gotten mad in situations where we probably could have reacted differently and had a different outcome for the other individual and for ourselves. So there's these little frustrations that kind of come up in life that are signposts and guideposts to, man, there is a higher quality of discipline, of being able to control our emotions and control our mental states in ways that produces more peace, more peace for ourselves and more peace for others. So there is a hierarchy to all of this. There's a hierarchy to life, to experience. When we come into contact with the world, that's how we learn, that's how we grow. And if we don't, then the same stuff keeps happening, right? There's more frustration for ourselves, and there's more frustration just in life in general. And you got people that can't control their eating habits, right? They eat uncontrollably, they eat crappy food, they get fat, they get overweight, they can't control their appetite, they can't control their physical desires, their sexual desires, and it leads to lower states of existence, a lower state of life experience. And so that's kind of how I think about the broad purpose of humanity, is that there is this level of, we're here to learn and grow. We're here to experience life. We're conscious. We have consciousness. We have this opportunity to experience life, and it's full of lots of great things, but it's full of a lot of hard things and difficult things. And the difficult things is what allows us to grow. Having the interactions, having the individuals that drive us nuts, having children that you gotta learn to teach how to live in life, how to control their emotions, and you start thinking, oh man, I'm trying to teach my kid how to control their emotions, and I can't even control my emotions, and so life just has this way of trying to help us grow, help us evolve, whatever word you want to use for all of that. And so for me, purpose is the broad sense of humanity. We're all here to learn and grow spiritually, mentally, physically, all of it. It's all interconnected. It's all interrelated. Life is, in some sense, is like a training ground for our spiritual, mental, and emotional lives, for our consciousness, to use the broad term. And then you get into like the more specific thing, which for me is mission. So each individual, has a unique, not only a unique fingerprint, right? There is no other person in the whole world that has a fingerprint like you or me. We have our own unique life experiences. We have our own unique personalities. We have our own unique talents and abilities that are inherent and natural to us, and that leads us in a specific type of mission in life. That there is, I believe there is a unique purpose for every individual, and that's what I call mission. It's your personal path of service to the world, serving others with our gifts, with our talents, with our life experiences. That's our mission. And when we find that, life becomes more meaningful. So true fulfillment only really comes when we find our mission, when we do serve others. And if we don't find that, if we don't seek that out, right? And I do think that all of life and all of these experiences in our lives, all of these things like what we're talking about, I think life is trying to push us or even just pull us into finding meaning for our lives. And so depression becomes kind of like a signpost or a guidepost saying that something's off, something's not where it should be. You're not doing or living the way you should be living. And so it's almost like a hint that you got to go deeper. You've got to find that act of service, that purpose, that individual purpose, that mission in your own individual life. And if you ignore it, life becomes depressed, becomes meaningless. It becomes a life of regret, especially when you feel a call towards something. You feel like you should be doing something and you neglect it and you don't follow it. It leads to a life of regret. And so I do think that there's this, almost like this inner compass within us that's calling us, it's pulling us deeper and deeper into not only growth, like we talked about, growth mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, but deeper into our own individual unique mission in life. Some might call it like conscience, right? Conscience is helping us know kind of what's right and what's wrong, and there's this inner intuition almost, and it all may be the same thing. It might be the Holy Spirit, right? What Christianity would call the Holy Spirit that is leading an individual or guiding an individual. I think a lot of different religious traditions and spiritual traditions have just used a different name for the same thing that's universal across the world. It's that inner law, that inner compass, that still small voice is what the Bible calls it in some Old Testament verse, I believe. But it's that still small voice that's calling the individual and calling them into this. It's almost like a relationship. And the mystics across the world forever have always said that there's this divine, that the divine speaks through like the inner life. And I think ultimately that is Christ. That is Christ in us. That's calling us not only into the right way of living, or a better way of living, right? A more fullness of life, but also calling us into our own unique purpose, our own unique mission. Ultimately, I think fulfillment is when you have these things all aligned, right? Where there's this deep inner knowing that there's something bigger going on, and being able to kind of rest in the mystery of it and just kind of have faith that there is something deeper going on, something bigger going on, and that there is a individual unique purpose to humanity, that we're here to learn and we're here to grow. We're here to be sanctified, is what Christianity would call it, or theosis. There's this process of development that's happening and that wants to happen inside of us. And it comes through this connection, this relationship with, man, what people just have never really been able to fully describe. That it is indescribable, but there's, once you know it, you know it. Once you've felt it, you've experienced it, you know it. And when meaning and purpose and mission all come together and are aligned, then we can experience fulfillment, ultimate fulfillment, true fulfillment, that our lives matter, that there's a purpose to wake up to every single day. And once we find that, we don't ever want to lose it. And it doesn't mean that life's going to be perfect, that we've got it all figured out. Doesn't mean that we're not going to get off track. We're going to maybe get out of alignment at times. But the deeper you go into these things and the deeper you come into alignment with it, it's so much easier to feel when you get out of alignment and need to course correct and get on track and reconnect with the divine or God or the Holy Spirit or the Christ within us. The deeper you connect with it, the deeper that relationship grows, the easier it is to come back and get back on track, to get back on the path. So it's just kind of how I've been thinking about some of these things. I'd be curious to know if anybody even hears this. I don't even know if YouTube, this is my first video that I've put out in a long time. I want to start creating some videos just on my journey home. Got a long road home, so I was like, well, why not? Why not just start throwing some videos out there, some things that I've been thinking about, things that I've learned in life or that I'm thinking about in life and experiencing in life. And so let me know in the comments if anybody hears this and is interested in talking about it, have a discussion about it. Would love to hear your thoughts. Just remember that you are the journey, so wander mindfully. Peace.